A man entered through the main doors, carrying two large duffel bags and holding the hand of a small child who looked tired from travel. He wore jeans and a worn jacket, his face showing signs of exhaustion but also determination. His eyes scanned the room before settling on the front desk, where two employees stood behind the counter, one flipping through paperwork without looking up, the other scrolling lazily through their phone. He approached with polite patience, waiting for them to acknowledge his presence. After a few moments, one finally spoke. "I'd like to check in," he said, voice steady despite the weight of the day's journey. "Name?" came the response, cold and mechanical. He gave it without hesitation. A few taps on the keyboard, then a pause. The employee squinted at the screen before letting out a quiet scoff. "Standard room?" "One night." "That's right," he replied. Another glance, this time more skeptical than before. "We have a suite booked under that name. Must be a mistake." "No mistake," he said firmly. "That's mine." The employee exchanged a look with their coworker, clearly unimpressed. There was a smirk, a moment of silent judgment. The key card was handed over with little ceremony. "If there's any damage, it comes out of your deposit." He thanked them and walked away, dragging the luggage behind him. As he disappeared into the elevator, the two employees shared a knowing look. Back at the front desk, they continued their shift, making quiet comments about the guest. They assumed he must have gotten lucky with a discount or made a mistake booking something far beyond his means. The idea that he could afford such a room didn't even register. Later that evening, after putting his child to bed, the man stepped outside onto the balcony. He stared out at the city skyline, deep in thought. He pulled out a folder from inside his jacket, filled with legal documents, architectural blueprints, and a photo of the very building he now occupied. His phone buzzed. A message lit up the screen. "Board meeting confirmed for tomorrow morning. Final vote on renovations." He exhaled slowly, tucked the phone back into his pocket, and watched the lights flicker across the city. The next day, the staff gathered in the break room, unaware of what was about to happen. One of the housekeepers rushed in with urgent news. "The guest in 1403 just called me directly," she said, voice trembling slightly. "He wants to review the staff schedule himself, and he mentioned ownership twice." There was silence, confusion, then disbelief. By morning, the boardroom was filled with managers, department heads, and key staff members. Some were nervous, others curious. No one expected the guest from room 1403 to show up, let alone walk and dress sharply in a tailored suit, exuding quiet authority. He placed a folder on the table and addressed the room. "I know many of you didn't recognize me yesterday. Understandable. I haven't been here much since my father passed, but I own this hotel, and I've come back to make some changes." Gasps rippled through the room. Eyes darted around, searching for meaning, for confirmation. Some faces paled, especially one in particular. He continued, calm but firm. "Before we get into renovations and new policies, I want to address a recent interaction I had at the front desk. I was checking in with my son, tired, stressed, trying to manage everything alone. And instead of kindness, I received sarcasm, disrespect, assumptions based on appearance." He opened the folder. I reviewed the security footage, heard every word. Silence fell over the room. No one dared speak. This hotel isn't just about luxury suites and five-star service. It's about people, about dignity, about treating everyone with respect, regardless of how they look or what they carry. He closed the folder. "So today, I'm announcing a new initiative. Staff training focused on empathy, customer service, and understanding hardship. Mandatory for everyone." He looked around the room, locking eyes with one person in particular. Some may need it more than others. She lowered her head, visibly shaken. Days passed, and the hotel began to change. The lobby buzzed with energy, guests smiled more often, and the staff seemed more engaged. The man returned to the front desk one afternoon, pushing a stroller with his sleeping child inside. The same employee who once treated him with indifference now greeted a guest with warmth and professionalism. She saw him approaching, hesitated, then walked over. "I wanted to apologize," she said quietly, "for everything." He nodded, not harshly, not cruelly. "Apology accepted, but actions matter more than words." She swallowed hard. I've already signed up for the first training session, and I'm entering a few new hires. He smiled faintly. Good. Growth starts with humility. As he walked away, pushing the stroller gently, the atmosphere around him felt lighter. Changed. Later that night, after putting his child to bed again, he stepped onto the balcony once more. The city stretched out before him, vast and full of possibilities. He took a deep breath, thinking back to the past few days, how being mistaken for someone insignificant reminded him of what truly mattered. For years, grief had kept him distant, disconnected from the life he helped build. Coming back here, being treated like a nobody, had somehow reminded him who he really was. Not just a businessman, not just a father, but someone who still had the power to change things. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what he needed. The following week brought a series of meetings, each more intense than the last. The man, now recognized as the owner, sat at the head of the boardroom table, listening carefully as department heads presented reports on operations, finances, and guest satisfaction. He asked pointed questions, challenged assumptions, and offered insights that revealed a deep understanding of the business. One manager, caught off guard by his knowledge, whispered to a colleague during a break, "I thought he was just some guy who got lucky with money, but he knows this place better than most of us." It became clear that he wasn't just returning to oversee renovations. He was reclaiming something that had been lost. His father had built the hotel from the ground up, and though he had stepped away after the loss, he was now ready to lead again. But leadership, he believed, wasn't just about numbers or profits. It was about people, about creating an environment where both guests and employees felt valued. At the end of the week, he hosted a town hall for all hotel staff. Hundreds gathered in the ballroom, unsure of what to expect. Some were anxious, recalling the way they had treated him when he first arrived. He stood on stage, microphone in hand, and began speaking. "I grew up in this hotel. My father taught me that success isn't measured by how many rooms we fill or how high our ratings go. It's measured by how we treat those who walk through our doors, whether they're paying top dollar or struggling to afford a single night." He paused, scanning the crowd. "When I checked in last week, I wasn't testing anyone. I was simply being a parent trying to give my child a good experience. What I experienced was disappointing, but also revealing. It reminded me that no matter how successful we become, we can always lose sight of what matters most." He stepped forward, lowering his voice. "So starting today, we begin a new chapter. We'll invest in our people. We'll train them not just to serve, but to understand, to see beyond appearances and offer compassion where it's needed most." A murmur spread through the audience. "I've already approved funding for a new mentorship program, expanded benefits for long-term employees, and a guest feedback system that will hold us accountable. This isn't just about fixing mistakes. It's about building something better." The applause that followed was hesitant at first, then grew stronger. By the end of the speech, nearly everyone was standing. Afterward, as he left the ballroom, a group of young staff members approached him. One of them, barely 20, looked up with wide eyes. "I've never worked anywhere that cared this much about people like us. Thank you." He smiled warmly. "You deserve to work somewhere that sees you, that respects you. And now you do." Weeks turned into months, and the hotel transformed. Guest reviews improved dramatically. Employees reported higher job satisfaction. The once cold front desk now welcomed visitors with genuine smiles. The man remained hands-on, walking the halls daily, speaking with staff, and occasionally stepping in to help during busy shifts. He never forgot what it was like to be overlooked. One evening, as he walked through the lobby with his son, now old enough to run ahead and explore, he stopped at the front desk. The same employee who had once dismissed him stood there now, assisting a guest with a warm greeting and efficient service. When she noticed him, she smiled. "How are you doing?" he asked casually. "Better than ever," she replied. "I finished a training course last week. It changed the way I see everything." He nodded approvingly. "That's what it's meant to do." They shared a brief conversation, then parted ways. As he walked toward the elevators, his son tugging at his hand excitedly, he couldn't help but smile. This place had once been a symbol of loss, a reminder of what he had buried after his father's passing. Now, it was something else entirely, a home, a legacy, a future. And as he looked down at his child, laughing at nothing in particular, he realized that sometimes the greatest lessons come from the moments we least expect. Being treated like a nobody had reminded him of who he truly was. And that, more than anything, was the greatest gift of all.